Please be seated. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome to this community of memory and hope that has been brought into being because of so many shared memories and the high regard that many feel for Ariel Welsh Dickerman. Welcome to this time and place, both real and virtual, where we gather to remember and to give thanks for Ariel's long and vital presence in this life. It is fitting that this gathering happened here at Unity Church-Unitarian, a place that was both nurtured and benefited from Ariel's generous spirit. Today we will gather stories that will weave a tapestry of living memory that will remain for as long as we remember. Keeping with the Unitarian Universalist tradition practiced at Unity Church, we light this chalice with the words of Jan Richardson. For those who walked with us, this is a prayer. For those who have gone ahead, this is a blessing. For those who touched and tended us while they lived, this is a thanksgiving. For those who journey with us still in the shadows of awareness, in the crevices of memory, in the landscape of our dreams, this is a benediction. I invite you now to rise in body or in spirit and find hymn number 38 in the gray hymnal in the pew racks. Number 38, Morning Has Broken, which was a special favorite of Ariel's. Please be seated. Well, if the stories about Ariel Dickerman are true, which I have no doubt they are, then the grief that we share today is the very best kind of grief. Ariel died at a venerable age because the life of her body had run its course and could no longer hold her spirit. She had, by all accounts, lived a long and mostly satisfying life. The lives she touched were enriched by her presence. Her disappointments did not appear to interfere with an overall sense of happiness and well-being. She loved long and generously and was loved in return. And it is love, we know, that is the greatest source of grief. The central reminder offered in the literature of grief is that everything we love, we will lose. Ariel's life, by all measures, invited the love of family and friends and even the love of strangers who passed through the doors of Unity Church as she extended her open heart and her lively stories in welcome from her perch at the reception desk. Today and ever after, there will be grief, and it will be grief uncomplicated by drama or by violence or even decades of painful decline. Ariel died at the end of a long life, leaving memories of love and fulfilled intention, works of art and lessons in nature. So along with the sadness of loss, we can truly hold gratitude for the gifts received and for the life that we carry forward. Let us pray. Holy One, who holds us gently as we pass in and out of this earthly life, we offer a prayer of thanksgiving for the multitude of blessings that grace this hour. We give thanks for the warmth of supported family and friends who have come from many places to offer care to each other in grief and shared memory. In this time, as the earth turns toward winter, we remember Ariel's appreciation of all of nature's beauty, the cycles of life and death and rebirth, and pray that her spirit has found its place among the forces that create and uphold life. May all who have known her continue to carry the legacy of her curiosity and her wisdom. In love and gratitude we pray. Amen. Share now these words from Mary Oliver. Song for Autumn. In the deep fall, don't you imagine the leaves think how comfortable it will be to touch the earth instead of the nothingness of air and endless freshets of wind? And don't you think the trees themselves, especially those with mossy, warm caves, begin to think of the birds that will come, 6 a dozen, to sleep inside their bodies? And don't you hear the goldenrod whispering goodbye, an everlasting being crowned with the first tuffets of snow? The pond vanishes, and the white field over which the fox runs so quickly brings out its blue shadows. And the wind pumps its bellows, and evening especially, the piled firewood shifts a little, longing to be on its way. Ariel Welsh Dickerman's life ended at a time in history when opportunities and expectations of young women graduating from private schools and colleges seemed to be without limit. Ariel graduated from Smith College in 1956, in a time when the expectations of women largely centered on finding a husband who could provide support and stability and an environment appropriate for raising children. Careers for women, mostly nursing or teaching, were considered to be a hedge against spinsterhood or a bridge to matrimony, but not primarily as a place to express creative energy, generosity of spirit, unfettered curiosity about nature, and an unconditional desire to contribute to the well-being of extended family and the larger community. But this was the kind of career that found Ariel Dickerman. Hers was an embodiment of the way of defining career as a path or a progress through life or history, a profession or occupation chosen as one's life work. To express creativity, generosity of spirit, unfettered curiosity about nature, and an unconditional desire to make a contribution to the well-being of extended family and the larger community. This was Ariel's life work. Ariel did, of course, marry Kent Dickerman, who appreciated her lively spirit, shared with her many adventures until his death in 2007. Those adventures did not poignantly include parenthood. And Ariel's education and time in the classroom teaching 3rd and 6th grade formed a foundation for her endless quest to create and engage the curiosity of children and adults and dogs in her life. Her reverent and enthusiastic relationship with the natural world turned every summer at Love Lake in Danbury, Wisconsin, into a place of discovery for her many nephews and nieces. Her creative energy found expression in her needle art. Her creations were both an outlet and an opportunity to provide joy to others and grace the spaces of those she loved with their beauty, and will be forever remembered. It will forever be reminders of her place in this world. And she made of herself a welcoming and nurturing presence in her many years as the front desk volunteer in her beloved Unity Church-Unitarian, and in the other places that she volunteered over her life. The staff at Unity Unitarian were both informed and delighted by her stories of world travel and grateful for her offerings of cranberry bread. Visitors were charmed by her warm greeting and offer of help. She embodied the very essence of hospitality, which is at the heart of the best of who we are here. Though Ariel ended her work in account services at TCF Bank many years ago, I think we could say that her life work, her real career, was only diminished by the fading of her physical capacities. Today's gathering is a memorial, yes, and perhaps the ultimate retirement party for a career that could only be ended by death. It is a tradition at Unity Church to share submitted memories at this time in the memorial service. And so many of these are excerpts from longer entries, which will be shared in their entirety in print with the family. And these are the stories that support her emergent career path. The first is from Dusty Myers, her longest time friend. When I was 12 years old, my mother admonished me to be nice to the new girl. I was to meet who was coming to tea with her mother and who would be joining my class at school in the fall. Her family was moving a block away from us. So began the saga of our mile-long treks to school through all weather. No carpools, no driving themselves, no backpacks. Through the years, we kept in close touch as our lives kept us apart. Smith College, Wisconsin Rapids, Stevens Point, New York State, and finally back to St. Paul, a block away from me again. My family is blessed with lovely samples of her masterful embroidery and needlepoint from the keepsake smocked dresses she made for our daughters as they came along, and a lovely embroidered purple iris hanging on my wall today. It turned out that we were nice to each other for 75 years, a testimony to a true lifetime friend that few of us can claim.
Stewart. My Aunt Ariel taught me many things as a young girl, including how to make a bed the proper way. But what she gifted me with later were lessons in contentment and letting go. When years ago, Aunt Ariel and I began the process to transfer ownership of her beloved cabin in Wisconsin to me, my sisters, and cousins, I imagined she would worry. I imagined it would be hard for her to let go. But she didn't, and it wasn't. She was untroubled and gracious. In this lovely way, she let me know she loved and trusted me. I am so grateful for these gifts.
From Eliza Van Wetter. When I think of my great Aunt Ariel, I remember the creaky screen door of the loon's nest, the excitement of an afternoon making deviled eggs, shelves filled with field guides, small bowls of goldfish, and a jar full of the season's ticks on the counter. Ariel filled spaces with grand stories, wonder and welcome, even the smallest of us in her home, with experienced extreme generosity.
From Maria Cubeta Mills. Ariel will always have a special place in my heart for the role she and her beloved cabin played in Adam, her nephew, and my engagement. And I will forever remember her sitting around the table there, effortlessly relaying every detail of times present and past to her family's rapt attention, while clearly loving every minute of it.
From Adam Mills, Ariel's nephew. I remember Aunt Ariel for her impeccable use of words and for keeping her word. Delicious blueberry pies, lace cookies, and cranberry bread, walks in the woods, appreciating her deep knowledge of birds. I will miss her very much and wish there had been more time for my sons to get to know her as I did.
From Bob and Betsy Van Wetter, Brew, and Ariel's niece and husband. In addition to being handy with needlepoint and crafts, Ariel was an unfailing source of information and stories about plants, animals, people, dates, and events. The woods and roads around the loon's nest and Danbury were well explored and known by. We will miss that ready source of knowledge. We now need to remember to pay more attention to the details of the natural world around us in her honor and memory.
From Daphne Thompson. Ariel was always chipper and upbeat. It was just a pleasure to run into her, and she was such a friendly face at the front desk on Thursday mornings.
From sister-in-law Sally Brew. Kent, my sister Betsy, and I were all married the same year, 1958. Over the years, mostly at our shared lake in Wisconsin, we were together every summer. We all learned that if we had a question about a flower or a bird, the answer was always, "Go ask Aunt Ariel." We knew all her dogs would meet us at her door at the lake.
From great niece Jessie. As a young girl, I looked up to my great aunt Ariel, who felt like an adventurer that you read about in books. She was always out on nature walks, fueled by the same curiosity I felt. She would stop with us to marvel at the bright blue eggs or the earthy chanterelle mushrooms. I like to think of her like a walking nature encyclopedia, an ability which bolstered my own love of the outdoors as I realized that it was a place of endless wonders and inspiration.
From grandnephew Jared Collin, berry picking, chanterelles, and deviled eggs. A beautiful embroidery, a quick joke, a quiet walk by the lake. Observing and then sharing secrets of the natural world around us. My great Aunt Ariel shared the joys of discovery with me and my cousins.
From niece Emily Brew. Ariel was the first member of my parents' generation to reach out to me when I came out in my mid-20s. She pulled me aside at a family function and told me she'd heard the news from my mother. Then she said, "I just want you to know that we love you." Such a simple act, such simple words, and it meant so much to me in a difficult and vulnerable moment.
From nephew-in-law Jeff Colin. Ariel was solid. She stood on the earth, legs spread shoulder wide apart, and watched and listened. When she participated in conversation, it was because she had something to say. She was quick to smile and equally quick to tell you if she didn't agree. I never saw her get hot, either in temperature or demeanor. She had her opinions and beliefs. She was solid.
From niece Sarah Foster Walters. I always loved walking right behind Aunt Ariel when we went for hikes in Danbury. She knew every single flower and bird and animal we encountered. I loved how she liked to share her favorite flowers with me, pointing them out as we strolled along. She liked to share things with us that she thought were special. She called me privately after hearing that I was going to have a baby, and she was just so delighted.
From sister-in-law Betsy Dickerman Dara. In the spring of 1952, as a senior in my central Wisconsin high school, I received a letter saying that I had been admitted to Smith College. When my grandmother, Nana Otis, in St. Paul heard the news, she said that she knew of another young woman who had also just been accepted. Nana thought that we two girls should meet. Several months later, Ariel and I headed east together on the train. We saw very little of one another at college, but 4 years later, we both graduated. How could we have guessed that in another 2 years, we would become sisters-in-law with a lifetime of happy family gatherings ahead?
From Sister Barbara Bliss. My dear sister's needlework graced the walls with love in my house in Cohasset and continues to do so in my current apartment. I enjoy looking at her artwork daily and will always have them to remember her by.
From nephew Dan Bliss. Aunt Ariel always said I was her birthday gift the day I was born on her birthday, October 5th. I grew to learn what a gift this was as it formed a special bond between us.
From Jean Kummerow. I can see Ariel two settings. One as a volunteer at the front desk at Unity Church, helping people navigate who and where they needed to go. And the second, in her sister Sally's home, with a needlepoint project in hand, hoping to get it done in time for yet another grandniece or nephew. These represent faith and family, two key values of Ariel's.
From nephew Bill Griggs. There are 3 life lessons I learned from Aunt Ariel. 1, as a child, she would tell me not to use the word hate. It was like a curse word for her. I didn't understand it then, but as an adult, I still pause when using the word and think of her. 2, looking at the box while doing a jigsaw puzzle is cheating, according to Aunt Ariel. Our extended family all follow this mandate, and I will credit her with teaching me the tenet. I really thought it was a widely held belief, but I have had to educate many others in the world the correct way to puzzle. And 3, nothing beats the delicious blueberry pie she made with her hand-picked wild blueberries from her cabin in Danbury. It is the pie gold standard by which I judge all others by.
From great niece Hannah Van Wetter. There was a singular pleasure experienced in my great Aunt Ariel's home on Love Lake that came at the end of the day cocktail hour. Accompanied by a bowl of goldfish and a tonic over ice, my cousins and I would clamber over ourselves with excitement to share all the things we'd seen in the woods that day. Every time we crossed paths with a new snake, plant, or flower, we would calmly say to the group at large, Aunt Ariel will know what this is. My Aunt Ariel and Uncle Kent did not have any children, but she was devoted to her family. She was practical, pragmatic, loved a good gin and tonic, and taught me many small lessons over many joyful years at the Wisconsin woods.
From niece Biz Mills. Every year, dear, sweet, beautiful Aunt Ariel made dozens of cranberry bread loaves for friends and family during the holidays. For the last several years, Sarah and I would come over to help. Aunt Ariel always had a whole assembly line of ingredients prepped, and this efficiency meant we spent most of the time chatting with our aunt while the kitchen filled with the smell of baking bread.
From nephew Ben Foster. From my late teens through somewhere in my 20s, I would visit Ariel in the spring and fall to change her windows and screens upon the seasonal changes. I loved that one-on-one time with her. It was sort of our thing.
From nephew Chauncey Griggs. I have many fond memories of dear, sweet, beautiful Aunt Ariel, her preferred form of address. But one that stands out is the time she came over to stay with me for several days when I was home ill from school with mononucleosis. There were no VCRs or streaming movies to watch, so we read books together and played many games of cribbage. She was a class act, following in the footsteps of her mother and namesake. I am thankful for her love and devotion through the years.
From niece Kate Conlon. Most of the memories and stories I have about Aunt Ariel are deeply tied to Love Lake and the summers we spent there over the years. The vibrant forests surrounding the cabin are filled with interesting things, and even now I can clearly hear her shout, "Come look at this!" And I remember her racing over to see what had caught her eye. Because of her deep attention to the world, She taught me to see and appreciate it too.
From Laureline, Ariel, A, for always at the ready, volunteering at Unity's front desk. R, for realistic and reality. I, for independent and interesting. E, for everybody's sister. And L, for love for family, friends, and Unity community.
From Susan Foote. Ariel was a pillar of Unity Church and a font of stories about old St. Paul. She and her wonderful sisters were a joy to converse with in the parish hall, all of them strong, generous, and vivacious women. Ariel will be greatly missed.
From Betsy Turner. I admired Ariel ever since I had her as my 6th grade teacher at Summit School. It was so cool having a really young teacher, alumna, teach us a little bit about many subjects. Her enthusiasm got to us to learn big time. I shall greatly miss seeing her at church as a greeter, front desk personality, and a coffee hour regular. A strong memory of her is one of seeing her sitting in the pew at the Christmas pageant with her sisters. They were a mighty force, let me tell you, all movers and shakers.
And from Barbie Byers. Ariel seemed ready for anything. My thanks to my colleague, Kathleen Rollens, for helping us with this part of our service. I invite you now to find the insert in your order of service and share with me in the responsive reading by Max Kutz. I will read the bold print and invite you to read the italics. When love is felt or fear is known, when anniversaries arrive by calendar or consciousness, when lives are born or people die, mark the time. Let nothing living slip between the fingers of the mind. This we know. All life is a gift. Ariel Dickerman's life was a gift. Her respect and love for all living things radiated out and connected with the wonder in others. Her voracious curiosity encouraged adventure and exploration. Her devotion to her family provided grounding for the generations before and after her. Her generosity and creativity made a living legacy that will carry forth in the parts of her who will live on in us, who she knew and loved. You will undoubtedly miss Ariel's unique expression of those gifts, and you will honor her memory by your own expression. And so in the days ahead, in her honor and in gratitude for the time left in your own life, teach a child to see the beauty of the world. Find a plant and call it by its name. Listen for a bird song and let it bring you hope. Enjoy a game with a generation that is not your own and be the dummy. Create something beautiful and give it away. Welcome a stranger and help them to feel that they belong. Witness a full moon in the night sky and give thanks for the gifts of this world and for the life of Ariel Dickerman. Please rise now in body and spirit and find the words for Blue Boat Home on your insert. And now remain standing and share with me the reading of the benediction by Arthur Foote. May peace dwell within our hearts and understanding in our minds. May courage steel our wills and the love of truth forever guide us. Please be seated for the postlude.